Once upon a time, a rancher named Thaddeus lived all by himself for years until one day, a woman showed up at his fence, crying and with no clothes on. Thaddeus was used to a quiet life, just him, his cows, and the sound of the wind. But that morning, when he stepped out with his coffee, he saw her at his fence, and it broke his 12 years of being alone like smashing a glass. She was shaking and crying so loud it echoed across the empty field. Her skin was dirty, her dark hair was all messy, and her knees and hands had blood from falling down. Thaddeus stood still, his coffee cup shaking in his old hands. He wanted to go back inside. People always brought trouble, and he'd stayed away from them since his wife, Martha, passed away and the town ignored him. But this woman wasn't asking for anything. She was holding on to his fence like it was saving her from sinking. Thaddeus put down his coffee and walked across the yard, his boots crunching on the frosty grass. She didn't see him at first, too scared to notice him coming. When she finally looked up, her green eyes were full of fear and tiredness. "Please," she whispered, her voice rough, "don't let them find me." Those words hit Thaddeus hard, like a punch. Them meant someone had hurt her, taken everything from her, even her pride, and made her run into the wild. Thaddeus looked at the horizon, half expecting to see people chasing her. "Who's after you?" he asked softly, even though he was getting angry inside. She shook her head fast. "I can't say. They'll kill me if they find me. They'll kill us both." Thaddeus looked at her face, checking if she was lying or trying to trick him. All he saw was real fear. After 12 years of avoiding people, he wanted to tell her to leave to keep his quiet life safe. But seeing her so broken and begging, he couldn't turn away. "What's your name?" he asked. "Magnolia," she whispered. He nodded. "I'm Thaddeus. Come inside. We'll figure this out." As he helped her stand, putting his coat around her shaking shoulders, Thaddeus saw dust clouds far away. 3 riders were coming fast toward them. His heart went cold. He knew the choice he made might put them both in danger. The riders were getting closer, and Magnolia's past was about to catch up. Thaddeus slammed the door shut and went to the window, peeking through the curtains. The riders were still a mile away, but moving quick. Magnolia stood in the middle of his small cabin, holding his coat tight around her, her eyes darting like a scared animal. "They're coming, aren't they?" she whispered. 3 of them, Thaddeus said, his mind racing. "Who are they?" Magnolia's face fell apart. "Colt Devlin's men. He owns the saloon in Copper Ridge and half the town." Her voice broke. He bought me to pay off my husband's debts. Said I belonged to him now." That word "bought" made Thaddeus so mad he felt cold. He'd heard about men like Devlin, who trapped women with debts in worse ways than slavery. Hearing it from Magnolia, seeing the shame in her eyes, made it real and burned inside him. "You escaped," he said. She nodded. "Last night, Colt was going to share me with his business friends to make a deal." The words sounded like poison. She had to get out. "I broke a window and ran. Been running all night." Thaddeus grabbed his rifle from above the fireplace and checked its 6 bullets for 3 tough gunmen. It might not be enough, but he wasn't someone who backed down after 12 years alone. "There's a root cellar under the kitchen," he said, pointing to a trapdoor under a rug. "Hide there and don't come out, no matter what." Magnolia grabbed his arm. "They'll kill you. Colt doesn't let people live who see his business." "Maybe," Thaddeus said, calm even though he was surprised at himself. "But they're not taking you back." The sound of horses' hooves got louder, like a storm coming across his land. Thaddeus stood by the window, rifle ready. He thought of Martha and the promise he made in her grave to stay out of other people's problems. But looking at Magnolia hiding in the cellar, he knew some promises had to be broken. The riders stopped hard in front of his cabin, their horses snorting and stomping. The leader wore a black vest and had cold eyes that seemed to notice everything. Thaddeus knew his type. Devlin's enforcer, someone who liked hurting people. "Morning," the man called out. "I'm Pike. We're looking for something our boss owns. Seen a woman around here?" Thaddeus stepped onto his porch, holding his rifle casually but ready. "Lots of women around. You gotta tell me more." Pike's smile was sharp like a knife. Pretty girl, dark hair, maybe not wearing much. His eyes noticed a second coffee cup on the porch. Funny thing, her tracks lead right to your door. The silence felt tight, like a rope about to break. Thaddeus knew his next words would decide if they all lived. Tracks can trick you, he said, his finger on the trigger. Especially after last night's rain. Pike's eyes got small. He knew there was no rain. They all knew that they had to play the game for now. Mind if we look around? Just to be sure. I do mind, Thaddeus said. This is my land. The two men with Pike moved in their saddles, hands near their guns. Thaddeus saw the plan. They'd done this before. Pike would talk while his men got ready to attack. You're wrong there, Pike said, getting off his horse slowly. Colt Devlin has a deal with the sheriff. This is official. He pulled out a crumpled paper. Warrant to search for stolen stuff. Thaddeus knew it was fake men like. Devlin made their own rules in towns like Copper Ridge, but the paper gave Pike's men an excuse to pull their guns. Stolen stuff? Thaddeus asked, trying to buy time. What got stolen? A couple thousand in services. Pike grinned. Plus, she attacked Mr. Devlin by breaking his window. That's breaking stuff and hitting him. Thaddeus's anger boiled over. These men talked about Magnolia like she was an animal, like her pain was just a business deal. He thought of her scared eyes and bloody knees from running. Services, he said flatly. Pike's grin got bigger. Now you get it. So step aside and let us take what's ours. Make this easy. Thaddeus raised his rifle. Here's what's happening. You get back on your horses and leave. Don't come back. The two men on horses pulled their guns at the same time, but Thaddeus was faster. His first shot knocked the left guy off his horse before he could shoot. The second shot hit the other guy's shoulder, spinning him around and making his gun fly. Pike dove behind his horse, pulling his own gun. You made a huge mistake, old man. Bullets hit the porch posts as Thaddeus rolled behind the water trough. He had 4 shots left. Pike was still moving and mad, and there might be more men coming. But hearing Magnolia crying softly from the cellar, Thaddeus knew he did the right thing. The fight for her freedom had started, and it would end today. Pike's horse ran off, leaving him in the open. He scrambled to an overturned wagon by the barn, with Thaddeus's bullets chasing him. The wounded rider groaned in the dirt, holding his hurt shoulder, while his dead friend stared at the sky. This ain't over, Pike yelled from behind. The wagon. Devlin's got 20 men. You can't fight them all. Thaddeus knew Pike was right. Even if he won this fight, more would come. Devlin wouldn't let this go, especially over someone he thought he owned. But looking at the trapdoor hiding Magnolia, Thaddeus knew he couldn't give up. Then he better bring all 20, Thaddeus shouted back. Pike fired 3 quick shots, the wood near Thaddeus's head breaking apart. But Pike was stuck, and they both knew it. The question was, who would run out of bullets first? Then the cellar door creaked open behind him. Don't, Thaddeus warned without looking. Stay hidden. But Magnolia's voice was steady now, stronger. The wounded. When I know him. That's Ezra Kane. Thaddeus glanced back. Magnolia was wearing one of his shirts, her face hard with recognition and hate. He was there the night Colt first. She couldn't finish, but she didn't need to. He held me down while Colt told me what I owed. Ezra, the wounded man, was crawling toward his dropped gun, blood leaking from his shoulder, but still dangerous. Thaddeus couldn't watch both him and Pike. If you were Thaddeus, what would you do? Trust Magnolia to handle Ezra while you face Pike, or risk it all to keep her safe and fight both men alone? Tell me in the comments. I want to know what you'd pick, because Thaddeus's next choice would decide if they'd live to see the sunset. Thaddeus made his choice. He slid his extra pistol across the floor to Magnolia. Know how to use this? Her hands shook as she picked it up, but her voice was cold. Colt made sure I learned said a woman should protect his property. Pike chose that moment to run from the wagon toward the cabin. Thaddeus swung his rifle, but Pike was fast and desperate. Pike's shot missed, but it was close enough to make Thaddeus duck. Behind him, a pistol shot rang out, and Ezra's scared voice said, "Wait, Magnolia, please." The gunshot was loud in the small space. When Thaddeus looked back, Ezra was still, and Magnolia stood over him, tears on her face. "That's for Sarah," she whispered to the dead man. "And Mary and all the others." Pike's voice was full of rage. "You killed Ezra. Devlin's gonna skin you both." But something changed. Magnolia wasn't just a scared victim anymore. She was a survivor who'd found her strength. Pike's desperation made him careless. He ran at the cabin, shooting wildly. Thaddeus dropped, him with one shot to the chest. But Pike's last bullet hit Thaddeus's arm, burning like fire. The silence was heavy. 3 men lay dead in his yard, their blood soaking the ground he'd kept peaceful for 12 years. Thaddeus pressed his hand to his wound, blood seeping through his fingers. "You're hurt," Magnolia said, running to him. "It's nothing," Thaddeus lied, though his vision was blurry. "We gotta move." Pike wasn't lying about Devlin's men. Magnolia tore strips from his shirt, wrapping his wound tightly. "I've done this before," she said quietly. "Colt's girls, we helped each other when we could." As she worked, Thaddeus looked at her. The scared woman at his fence was gone, replaced by someone tougher, who'd survived awful things and learned to fight. It should have worried him, but instead, he felt respect for her, something he hadn't felt for anyone in years. "There's more," Magnolia said, pausing on the bandage. "Pike said 20 men, but that's not the worst. Devlin doesn't just own the saloon. He's got a deal with the railroad company. They want all the land in this valley for a new train line." Those words hit Thaddeus hard. "This land?" She nodded. "Your ranch is right in their way. They've been pushing people out for months, but no one would sell. So Devlin started using force. The other ranchers are dead or gone. You're the last one, Thaddeus. They were probably coming for you anyway. I just gave them a reason today." Her green eyes met his. Now it all made sense. This wasn't just about Magnolia. Devlin wanted his land, and her escape gave him an excuse to attack. That's why the warrant was fake, why Pike was so sure of himself. "How long before Devlin comes with his men?" Thaddeus asked. Magnolia looked at the sun. 2 hours, maybe 3. Pike was supposed to signal when he found me. Thaddeus looked at his cabin, at the life he built from nothing. Every piece of wood, every nail, every fence post was years of hard work. This land was all he had left of Martha, the only thing that gave his life meaning. But now he had a choice: run and lose it all, or stay and face 20 killers with a hurt arm and a woman who'd been through enough. The sound of far-off hoofbeats echoed across the valley, and Thaddeus realized the choice might already be made. The hoofbeats weren't from Copper Ridge. Thaddeus looked through his rifle scope and felt his heart drop. 8 riders came from the east, moving fast and with purpose. But they weren't Devlin's men. "Cavalry," he said. Magnolia's face went pale. "Oh no, Colt must have told Fort Henderson I'm a criminal or something." Thaddeus lowered his rifle. Fighting bad businessmen was one thing, but shooting at soldiers was treason, even if they were lied to. They wore U.S. Army uniforms. "What do?" "We do?" Magnolia whispered. Before Thaddeus could answer, the soldiers spread out around his land. Their leader, a young lieutenant with hard eyes, rode forward alone. His hand rested on his sword, but Thaddeus saw the guns the others carried. "I'm Lieutenant Morrison," the officer called. "We're looking for an escaped criminal hiding here, a federal fugitive wanted for theft and assault." "What's the fugitive's name?" Thaddeus asked, stepping onto his porch. "Magnolia Hayes, also called Magnolia Devlin." The lie was so smooth, Thaddeus almost believed it. Devlin had turned his local power into federal law. Now Magnolia wasn't just running from crooks, she was running from the law. "Haven't seen anyone by that name," Thaddeus said. Morrison looked at the 3 bodies in the yard. "Looks like you had some trouble, Mr. Crane." "Thaddeus Crane. Those men tried to rob me. I protected my land. 3 against 1. Nice shooting, Mr. Crane." Morrison got off his horse, his hand now tight on his sword. "Mind if we search your place?" "Just routine for fugitives." Thaddeus knew saying no would make them suspicious, but if they found Magnolia, she'd end up back with Devlin through legal ways. "Sure," he said, "but I live alone. Have for years." Morrison nodded to his men. 4 soldiers got off their horses and started searching the barn and other buildings. It wouldn't be long before they found the cellar. Inside, Magnolia, pressed against the wall by the door, holding the pistol. Thaddeus could see her through the window, trapped like a cornered animal. If the soldiers saw her with a gun, they'd shoot first. "Tell me about these men," Morrison said, kicking. "Pike's body. Know them?" "Drifters," Thaddeus lead. "Said they wanted work, but they were planning to rob me." "Funny thing," Morrison said casually. "We heard from Copper Ridge that 3 of Colt Devlin's men came this way this morning. Haven't come back." The trap was tightening. Morrison knew who the dead men were, which meant he knew why they came. The federal warrant was just a story to make Devlin's revenge look legal. A soldier shouted from the cabin. "Lieutenant, found something." Morrison smiled coldly. "Your story's falling apart, Mr. Crane." The soldier came out holding Thaddeus's shirt, the one Magnolia wore, with blood on it from bandaging. "His wound. Blood's still wet," the soldier said. "And there's a trapdoor in the kitchen. Someone was hiding there." Morrison stared at Thaddeus. "Where is she, Mr. Crane?" Thaddeus's mind raced. The cellar was empty, meaning Magnolia had slipped out somehow. But where? His land was open grass for miles. Then he thought of the old mine shaft. Martha had shown it to him years ago, a used-up silver mine hidden behind the barn. It was dangerous, falling apart and full of snakes, but it could hide her. "I told you," Thaddeus said. "I live alone." Morrison slapped him across the face, hard and sudden. Blood dripped from Thaddeus's lip, but he stared back. "Don't make this harder," Morrison said. "Hiding a fugitive is a hanging crime." Then a rifle shot cracked from the rocks behind the barn. One of Morrison's men fell, holding his leg. The others dove for cover, looking for the shooter. "She's in the rocks," someone yelled. Morrison pulled his sword and pressed it to Thaddeus's throat. "Call her out, or I'll cut you open." But Thaddeus smiled, even with the blade at his neck. Magnolia wasn't just surviving, she was fighting smart. From the mine shaft, she had good cover and could shoot clearly. The soldiers would have to step into the open to get her. Another shot rang out, closer. A soldier yelped and hid behind a water trough. Magnolia was moving, using the mine's many entrances to stay ahead of their shots. "She's got the high ground," Thaddeus said calmly, "and she knows those rocks better than your men. How many soldiers you willing to lose for Devlin's money?" Morrison's face turned red. "This is about law and order. This is about a railroad and a crooked businessman who owns you," Thaddeus said. "How much is Devlin paying you to wear that uniform for his dirty work?" The sword pressed deeper, drawing blood, but Morrison's hand shook. His act was falling apart, showing he was just a hired gun in a uniform. From the rocks, Magnolia's voice rang out, strong and clear. "I've got 6 more shots and all day to use them. How bad do you want me, Lieutenant?" Morrison's hand shook more. His men were stuck behind cover, pinned by a woman they couldn't see. Their careful plan had turned into a mess, and they were losing. "Stand down," Morrison yelled toward the rocks. "You're making this worse." Magnolia laughed, the sound bouncing off the rocks. "Worse? Is there something worse than being Colt Devlin's property?" Another shot rang out, and they soldier by the trough cursed as wood splinters flew past. Magnolia wasn't trying to kill them. She was showing she could. She could have taken out half of Morrison's men if she wanted. "She's playing with us," a soldier muttered. Morrison pushed the sword deeper into Thaddeus's neck. "Call her down, or I swear." "Lieutenant Morrison," a voice came from behind. Morrison turned to see an older man in a colonel's uniform riding fast toward the ranch. Morrison's face went pale as he recognized his boss, Colonel Hartwell. "Colonel Hartwell," Morrison stammered, lowering his sword. Hartwell got off his horse, looking at the dead men, soldiers hiding, and Morrison holding a blade to an unarmed rancher's throat. His face got darker with every detail. "What's going on here, Lieutenant?" "Sir, we're chasing a federal fugitive." "Word from Copper Ridge said, word from Colt Devlin, you mean?" Hartwell's voice was cold. "Thought I wouldn't. Find out about your deal with that crook." Morrison's mouth opened and shut like a fish. "Sir, I don't know what you mean. I mean the $2,000 in railroad money in your room last night. I mean fake federal warrants. I mean using my soldiers for corporate profit." Hartwell stepped closer. "Did you think you could use my men as hired guns with no consequences?" From the rocks, Magnolia called. "Colonel, you here to arrest?" "Me too?" Hartwell looked toward the rocks. "No, miss? I'm here to arrest the men using federal badges to commit crimes in your area." Thaddeus felt huge relief, but it was nothing compared to the sound from the mine shaft, a mix of a sob and a laugh. The sound of a woman who'd been running so long she forgot what safety felt like. Morrison made one last try, lunging for his dropped pistol. Thaddeus kicked it away and punched him in the face, knocking him down. 12 years of anger and loneliness went into that punch. "That's for Martha?" he growled. "And for every woman Devlin's hurt." Magnolia came, out from the rocks 20 minutes later, rifle over her shoulder, tears on her face. She walked to Thaddeus and fell into his arms, finally believing she was free. "It's over," he whispered into her hair. "You're safe now." Colonel Hartwell arrested Morrison and 3 of his men for corruption and abusing their power. The other soldiers, who thought they were following real orders, were sent to new posts. Devlin was arrested when federal marshals raided Copper Ridge the next day. 6 months later, Thaddeus and Magnolia stood on the porch of their fixed-up cabin, watching the sunset turn the valley golden. She wore a simple white dress, and he wore his best shirt. A preacher from the next county had just married them. "No more running," she said, taking his hand. "No more hiding," he agreed. The railroad never built their line through the valley. Their land reports were faked to make the land seem more valuable. But Thaddeus and Magnolia didn't care. They'd found something worth more than all the railroad money. They'd found each other. If you liked the story, send a super chat to help share more stories like this. Now, click the video on the screen for a story even better than this one, with a twist so big you won't forget it anytime soon. Click the video.